Good morning, students. I am Professor Pritha Gavande from Bharati Vidyapeeth deemed to be University Center for Distance and Online Education. I welcome you to the expert session on leveraging emerging technologies for fostering sustainable innovation and its practical implementation. This topic explores how cutting-edge advancements like AI, IoT, blockchain, and renewable energy technologies can drive sustainable business practices. This topic emphasizes the steps to implement such technologies, highlighting real world examples, challenges, and strategies that lead to the sustainable development while maintaining competitiveness in a rapidly evolving market. So, uh, to enlighten us with the topic, we have with us Mrs. Ketke Deshpande. Mrs. Ketke Deshpande is a certified entrepreneurship and startup mentor in the Vadhwani Foundation. I would request all others to please mute themselves. The sound is getting echoed, that's why. Okay, thank you so much. Mrs. Ketke Deshpande has trained more than 150 students on entrepreneurship and startups from problem identification to competitive advantage to funding strategy. She is a startup consultant at Corporate Sports Connect Mumbai. She is an experienced corporate trainer who provides strategic consultancy services to leading corporations and NGOs to optimize resources and funding activities for CSR. She has been an educational trainer for graduating students at various institutes on entrepreneurial mindsets, stress management, and time management with a chain of beauty businesses in the heart of Mumbai for 12 years. She has a corporate work experience of about 13 years in ICICI Bank and City Corporation. She is also an alumnum of SIIB. So, madam, I now request you to take up the session and I request all the students to make the most of it. Ketki ma'am, I hand over the session to you.
Yes. Hello.
Yeah, ma'am, before you start, I would like to make an announcement for our students. So, last 10 to 15 minutes will be allotted for the question answer sessions for the students. Okay, so I would request students to to let the expert finish the sessions and then we can have the question answer session so that we can have a flawless session. Yes, ma'am, you can continue now.
Thank you, Professor Pritha, for such kind introduction. And
Thank
I
you,
like
ma'am.
to extend my thanks to Dr. Sham Shukla to have given me this opportunity to interact with the lovely students of Bharati Vidyapeeth. As I understand, the students are spread over different streams for today's session, correct? Right.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
And primarily, yes, sir. So primarily our objective for today's session, as per my understanding, is to understand how uh, the economy is changing. How can we be a part of this changing economy and contribute to the economic growth? How technology becomes important in this entire journey, right? So I like this to be an interactive session, first of all. Let me welcome all the students today on a Saturday morning. I understand it's maybe your one of the not working days or not the college days for you all, but I'll try and keep it as interactive and as interesting for all of you, because economics and sustainability, technology becoming, I mean, they are a little complex topics, but I have included a couple of case studies and real time examples for you all to understand it a little better. If I may request you all to keep your cameras on, especially the students, so that it becomes easier for me to understand that are you understanding it or not. And at any point, if you have any questions, please feel free to raise your hands. And of course, at the end of the session, also, we will have a Q&A session.
Ma'am,
Okay?
as of now, we have not granted the camera access to the students. I'll see if it
Okay.
is possible for me right now to give it, or else
No
you
problem.
can just
No
continue
problem.
the
But
session.
I just would like to then, in that case, request them to put their questions in the just raise your hands, and also if you have anything to say, please. I'll be asking a lot of questions also, so it will be really nice to get some answers in between, so to
Sure.
understand whether everybody's attentive enough. Also, are you liking the session or not? Right.
Okay, ma'am.
All right. So, is the PPT visible to all of you?
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
ma'am.
Yes. All right. So basically, I will start with the flow of the presentation. I like to start uh, today's session with India's economic growth. How have we, what economics is, and what economic growth is, and how we have grown till the 78th and 79th year of our independence. The golden period of India that we are pretty much a part of at the moment, as you all might agree to it. At the same time, what are the challenges with the global warming? How alarming is the situation at the moment? And how could we resolve this situation? Is there a need for innovative, sustainable solutions? Of course, the role of technology in here, and how employability is going to be dynamic and changing with coming years. The requirements of you all to have more of application of knowledge, to be aligned, to be able to get jobs or to be a good entrepreneur for that matter. So that alignment of your degree with the need of the hour in the industry, right? Because we all are students, we all aspire to learn different streams with an objective of finally, taking up a job or to start a business where you want to contribute in a way for whatever we learn, and of course get compensation against it, right? And that's precisely employability. So we will have an overall perspective of where do we stand as a country, what are the requirements of our economy in coming years, and how you all also need to have a little perspective and vision in your career paths to remain adaptable to the situations that are arising. Okay, so like to start with very basic.
To 1 minute, just sorry to interrupt. I just
No
wanted to
problem.
convey that the camera access has been given to all the students. So
Oh,
if
lovely.
you require, then they can turn on their camera.
Yes. So
Okay.
I'll urge all the students, if it is possible, please put the cameras on, and let's keep it as an interactive session. You all have any problems, any doubts, you can just ask, put your mics on, and you can just ask in the middle of the sessions or at towards the end, right? So, going back to the basics, today when we are going to talk about the economic growth, how we perceive the economic growth to be coming in the next decade, what will be the challenges, how innovation will become important, how technology is going to be important. Let's first understand what economics is at the end of the day, right? So, as we know, the guru of Arthashastra, Chanakya, he defined this hundreds of years back, saying economics is the most important aspect of life as it provides the basis for human existence and survival. It cannot get more simpler than this. To quickly explain this, I like to visit the food chain and the food web and our presence in this primarily. Okay, we all are aware of the food chain, correct? Where basically we have producers and we have consumers, right? So plants take the energy from the soil, from the sun, okay, from the, whatever panchamahabhutas are available, they take all the energy and they produce food, right? So they are taking the energy and resources from the elements and producing something. Now they offer themselves, and as a part of the food web, the herbivorous animals eat the plants, right? Now these animals are further eaten up by the carnivorous, and then they are further eaten up by the bigger animals, right? Now at the end of the day, so every animal or every insect will be a part of the food web, and at the end of it, when these animals, the biggest animals, when they die, who are not directly consumable, the decomposers come into picture, and then they make the decomposed bodies again reusable in terms of giving back to the soil, right? So everybody is having a role where they contribute, they take something from the panchamahabhutas or they take something from the nature and they give it back, right? If you look at this entire chain, where do human beings stand? I mean, we are only at the receiving end, aren't we? And of course, that is the genesis of going back to what is the basis for our human existence and survival. And this is where the economics came into picture, that when we started having things, and when we started, basically where the civilizations started happening, where the mankind actually settled near the river banks, right? They realized that, okay, on your own you cannot survive, and how will we give it back now is by producing something or creating some product or service and exchanging it, right? So what is economics at the end of the day? If we look at economics, is what to produce, how to produce, when to produce, and for whom to produce. So it's, and of course it is the distribution of scarce resources. So many of you are from the commerce background, and many of you all must have learned economics to a greater level. But if you have to come back to the basics, it's all about, if you have to look at where it started from barter system, that I have a cow and you have a farm. Okay, so let's exchange. Okay, I have apples and you have bananas. So what do we do? So let's split it and exchange. So that is the genesis of how the barter system came into picture. Then what happened? At one point, it became very difficult to actually weigh or to actually have a transaction to understand whether one cow is equivalent to how many kgs of crop, right? And that's how currency came into picture. So if you look at how the mankind evolved, is right from the civilization started taking place, we realized that, okay, we also have a role to play. The economics started evolving with the barter. Barter had its own limitations, right? And then the currency took place. Now with every age, might it be the Stone Age, Iron Age, Copper Age, the form of currency kept changing, right? And today, of course, we have digital currency, and our next future, I mean, you all will definitely, some of you all might carry crypto in coming decades, right? So that is how everything evolves over the period of time. So everything depends on which era are you in. Okay, what are the available resources? If you were in Iron Age, okay, you could have definitely not have had a digital age currency or a crypto, because the availability of the resources could provide you iron to have currency. In the copper age, it would have been copper. So economics is all about allocation and distribution of those scarce resources, where then the demand and supply models, of course, come into picture. And that's how the entire dynamics change. I hope I'm being clear till now. If you all have any doubts, please feel free to ask me. Okay, you all can type also in the chat. Just trying to see camera across to all students. Okay. If you all understanding, please write a yes till now. Did you all understand what I explained till now? If even some of you can write, it will be really good to know that I'm being a little clearer in this. So I just explained about how economics evolved. Yes, Aditya is saying yes. Suraj, Rahul, thank you. That helps. All right. So, where are we at the moment? We are at understanding how world evolved, how the eras changed, and how we have reached this phase. So now let's evaluate what has been the growth path for our country now. Okay. So you all are aware that from the independence to the agricultural revolution, the journey, okay, the green revolution journey, which took place in 1960s, it was pretty much a big revolution which took place, because till then our GDP was really merely anything. Okay, we were struggling just post independence and the partition and all of those challenges till 1950s, mid 50s. We were struggling with many other things in terms of reforms and our constitution and overall, you know, that kind of governmental issues. And of course, that was the time when we really understood that we have to be on our own now. Correct? So the Green Revolution took place in 1960s, and overall economic performance boosted that time. So India's GDP growth was 3.7% in 1961, and in 5 years, okay, again it dropped, but again in by 1967 it actually grew to 7.8, which was one of the biggest numbers for us, first time ever. Okay, so now what is GDP? First of all, okay, GDP is basically, as you all know, is a gross domestic product. What is it? It is an outcome of all the services, all the agriculture, all the products that we manufacture. Okay, at the end of the day, it is the growth which is an indicator of our growth. So at the moment in 2024, I must tell you, and I'm sure most of you all know, and you all are also equally proud to know that we are the fourth largest GDP contributor at the moment. And that, so if you look at where we started from, we hardly had any growth in 1960s or mid 60s. And from there, even today, when we are somewhere between 7.5, 7, 8, so that is highest. And where the developed nations are below 2, 2.5 to 3, that is the level at which the journey has occurred. Okay, so we will of course discuss all this in the course of the session today. So this is how it happened from 1960s to 70s. Then what was the era? Then of course in between, I have missed to write it, it was the industrialization, okay, where many factories were opened up in India. So that was an industrialization era. So if you must have looked at your parents or your grandparents, they started getting jobs in the factories. Actually, that is also where the education system in India changed. You know, we always had a system of gurukul in India, where the students used to go to the guru's house or in gurukul and study there. But because by then we had adopted to the British standards, we realized that we needed people who could listen to the instructions. And then we created benches just like them. And then we made people learn what was required at that time rather than the holistic education. Okay, keeping that side, there was an industrialization which happened. And then if you look at 1991 to 2000, there was liberalization and growth, right? So early 90s marked a turning point for India, as you all know, because big gates opened up in terms of reforms which initiated in 1991, and it led to more than an open market economy. So deregulation and increase in the foreign investment. What happens the moment you open up your economy? Okay, where you're allowing the foreign companies to come and set up. We had our own fears till then because we had just got the independence. We were just trying to get independent in terms of our economic growth, and there were a lot of inhibitions.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
so this is where we started from the food web, correct? And now, then we spoke about the economics part of it, the allocation of resources, distribution of scarce resources. Then we have been talking about the growth path of India. Yeah. So we started with the agricultural revolution, then the industrialization, and now we are talking about the liberalization and growth. Correct. So there were a lot of inhibitions and protests in terms of we should not allow the FIIs to come in and the foreign companies to set up because we had an experience with the East India Company. But by then things had changed. We were a stronger country in ourselves. And it was a very, very sensible decision. Of course, we all agree by now to have allowed these countries to come in because it opened a lot of gates for India, right? After which we all are aware that there was an IT wave. So what happened was the entire world realized that nothing is possible without the intervention of a computer, right? And the computer related services. And that is where they realize India becomes a hub because by then we had a lot of students and we had visionaries like companies like Infosys who encouraged that kind of culture in India. So India's economic growth accelerated in 2000 and the country emerged as a major player in the global economy. I think that was one of the, again, very, very important phases where India came into limelight. We were no more a country of snakes, right? Only of snakes. And people started having a different perspective of India, correct? So, with robust growth in IT services, telecommunications, and manufacturing, and during this period, India became one of the world's fastest growing major economies. So, that was also a major wave. So, if you must have noticed, the waves also that occurred were very parallel with what was the ground level reality. So, the ground level reality in the 60s was we had the population, we had the resources, and we needed to bridge the gap to have the food to be supplied. And that's how agricultural revolution took place. After which we had the population, okay, we had the bandwidth, but we didn't have enough jobs. And then that's how we created industrialization. Then we felt, okay, there's something more. We haven't opened up. We haven't yet utilized our full potential in terms of how the other countries are operating. And then we opened the gate through the liberalization. So every time there has been an economic growth or wave or change, it has been very, very parallel with the current scenario or realistic things which are happening in the country, right? So similarly, there was an IT wave because that was a need of the hour in the entire world, that they needed people who could even sit in some other country but do their processing, their back-end operations, their medical transcriptions, their translations, and a lot more, right? Developing, designing many products, coding. And India had that brain. India encouraged the youth that time to get into. So if you must have noticed in 2000, if you all had any cousins or any senior family members of that era, 80% of them got into the category of IT. It was an assured job, a change of lifestyle, and a lot more. So during this period, India became one of the world's fastest growing major economies. And now, if you look at it, India's growth story in last 10 years. So India's GDP growth rate was 8% in 2015 and 8.3 in 2016. However, the growth declined due to the COVID, as we all are aware, but many developed nations were still in negatives to a greater level. We dipped in terms of COVID, but again, we rebounded. And we had a 9.7, which has been one of the highest GDP growth level in 2021. Okay, so GDP is primarily the indicator of a universal indicator where you can compare, you can say, I hope you all understand what a purchasing parity is. So when I say I buy a bag for 100 rupees in India, okay, the same bag costs me $3 in US, and that is purchasing parity. Okay, so similarly, if you have to compare the growth of countries, GDP is the indicator. Okay, so 9.7 in 2021, where the developed countries were below 3, is the highest potential that we displayed. And the current rate is also somewhere at about 7.6%, which is a very, very promising rate, where we are the fourth largest GDP contributor at the moment. I'm sure you all must have been aware of the G20 Economic Outlook, where India has been declared to be the fastest growing economy in 2024. Okay, if you look at the kind of growth that we are looking at, India is topping it up. Okay, so that talks about a lot of potential that our country has. Correct. So I hope everybody is understanding till now, where we discussed how the economics changes, how the waves have occurred in India. Okay, and right from our independence till now, how our GDP has been fluctuating. But after 2000, maybe in the recession that happened in 2008, and maybe where the COVID happened, these are the 2 points where we dipped. But otherwise, at the moment, we are again one of the fastest growing economy. If you have understood till now, please type a yes. That will be helpful. Okay. If you all have any doubts, please you can write in the chat box. So why do you think Dr. Sham Shukla has arranged this session? Right? You all are from very, very different streams, studying graduation, postgrad, some of you all are from. So Bharati Vidyapeeth is one of the esteemed universities in India, Pune, Maharashtra, and where we basically want to give the best of the perspectives to the students, right? Of how the economies work, how you all can shape up yourselves, what should be your vision to fit in. At the end of the day, we all are learning, trying to get a degree, okay, to become employable or to become somebody who can create a value, who is an innovator, who is a problem solver. So I'm sure such sessions are being arranged for you all to get different perspectives from the industry experts, right? So me being more from the startup world, the entrepreneurial world, and being a economics professor, I'm trying to give you a perspective from that angle today. Okay. Now, as we understood that in the entire journey of our nation, we fitted in as per the wave that occurred every time. So now we need to understand that what is it? Is there any BCA first year? Okay, there's a question Anikesh Verma has asked, maybe to other students. All right. So So basically now we are trying to understand that when the country adopted to different waves of that era, now that you're all going to be prepared for your jobs in the coming future, what is it that you can look forward to, right? So to give you a little perspective, again going back to the slides, I hope it is visible. Are the slides
Yes,
visible
ma'am.
to? Okay, great.
Yes.
So now we need to understand that what is happening to the world at the moment. And at this juncture, where do we stand? Okay. So I'd like to give you a little perspective of course, everybody knows about the global warming, the repercussions of it, and we are all facing it day in and out. I mean, nobody can escape it, right? And it's just getting worse. So I'll just like to give you a little perspective of where is the world moving towards. Okay. Because we have been taking everything from the Panchamahabhutas. Okay, might it be your industries, your IT, your manufacturing, agriculture, vehicles, everything, right? Using the road, land, building, logistics, your infrastructure, whatever we are creating, we are taking things from Panchamahabhutas. And as per economics, we understand the resources are scarce. Now, one of the reports, the researchers, shows indicates that in last 150 years, okay, we have consumed maximum non-renewable resources like fossil fuels. What are non-renewable resources? Which takes millions of years to be created, like fossil fuels and that kind of coal and stuff like that, right? So because why? Because everybody wanted to be cost effective, right? And they were the easiest which was supplied, right? And we didn't have much renewable resource to be used, and that even if we had, it was more scarce and more limited. And we, of course, then the law of demand and supply applies, that what is scarce will be more expensive. So the industries, the manufacturing units, the factories, they have almost exhausted the non-renewable resources to a level that it's going to be actually getting exhausted in coming 20, 30 years. That is one perspective. Secondly, what level of carbon emission? Okay, with every use of energy, I'm sure you all have studied physics in your school days, and little bit that we understand is every time the energy is transferred, there is little bit of thermal energy also which is created. So the heat is being generated. At the same time, there has been carbon emission, the CO2, and all this has contributed to the alarming situations we are going to look at, right? So let's have a look at what kind of situations are we talking about. The climate crisis. Climate change is not just the global issue, but a severe crisis that affects every aspect of our lives. And for example, droughts. Okay, there are major parts which are waterless, and there are some cities of the world which are going to get declared to be waterless. I mean, we won't be surprised in coming years in some cities of Africa if we see water stations just like petrol stations, and we won't be surprised if there are some wars or some civilian wars for water. That is the level of crisis we are talking about. Okay, let's look at the ice. The Arctic ice is melting, and at what level? Okay, so what happens when this ice is melting? Firstly, the drinkable water is becoming the salt water, correct? So 70% of the earth is water, out of which 96.5% is seawater. Okay, and the kind of population that we have, we definitely need more drinkable water. So the ice water is coming down due to the migrations, because of the changes in the climates, so many migrations taking place, and it definitely hampers the balance of the ecosystem. There are storms, we know about all this which is happening everywhere. Oceans, the ocean acidification is accelerating because of the acid rains, the amount of nitrogen and amount of CO2 in the air, right? So the oceans absorb this, and the aquatic balance also is lost. The sea levels are rising previously much faster than how it was predicted before. So we won't be surprised if in couple of years, in maybe 70, 80, 100 years, couple of coastal cities go under the water. I mean, this is the level at which the global warming is affecting us. So we are going and running behind the growth, the economic aspect, the profits, bigger the better. But at the cost of what? Have we ever thought that if one day there'll be nothing to be allocated because economics is about allocation of resources. If we exhaust all of them, right, there will be nothing left at the end of the day. So now what do we do here? The temperature rises, the heat waves. This is one of the biggest concerns the entire world has. The global temperature has risen by 1.2 degrees since pre-industrial times, pushing it closer to 1.5. Okay, and this is much bigger than what it was anticipated. It used to take decades for increase of half a degree. Now it is becoming so fast. Heat waves. Okay, we see the birds, we see the, some cities where people are dying due to heat waves, wildfires. So the list just goes on, correct? Just to give you a perspective of how the climate change is happening in India. Okay, in 2023, it happened to be the hottest year for India in 172 years, and so will be 2024. I'm sorry, there's some. Okay. So 2023 happened to be the hottest year in last 172 years, which is a very, very alarming situation. And so will be 2024. Okay. And maybe 25. At the current rate, global warming was supposed to reach 1.5 degrees centigrade between 23 to 52. So we were thinking that in 19 years, it will go by 1.5 degrees. But that temperature rise already happened in 2023. So what we anticipated would have happened due to all the emissions, due to all the misuse, right? All the global warming that is happening. We, as on a world level, as a society, we anticipated it will take us 19 years to have a rise by 1.5 degrees. It just happened in 2023. So that alarming the situation is. Okay. Now breaching 2 or 3 degrees centigrade will happen very soon if immediate actions are not taken. Okay. As seen above, several catastrophic points where we're talking about certain sea levels rising and migrations and imbalance, all these
Excuse
catastrophic
me, ma'am.
points. Yeah, all
Yes, ma'am.
this, was this visible before or?
Yes, ma'am, it
Okay,
is visible.
all right. So we spoke about all these catastrophic effects of climate change, like droughts and the sea levels rising and the acidic seas and the ice melting, right? The kind of storms, migrations, loss of balance of the ecosystems, all of this. And now what has happened is by 2023, we have already surpassed the peak, which we were anticipating by 2052. I mean, how alarming can it get? And now, if we don't take care of this situation, now breaching 2 or even 3 degrees centigrade, okay, will happen if immediate actions are not taken. Okay, so as seen above, several catastrophic points will be crossed, like crop yields will fall because of the climatic change, because the soil will become less productive, diseases will spread. If you look at Delhi, I think by 2050 it will be in top 5 most polluted cities. At the moment also, when you go to Delhi, we know that half of the people are wearing masks. It's no COVID, but people are wearing masks. So the respiratory diseases are increasing, the rising. And just imagine if our kids, if your kids tomorrow are left with no pure oxygen to breathe, okay, and if they have to start wearing masks in their daily lives, because that is the current scenario in Delhi. Okay, so where are we going with all this? And the rising seas, which will consume coastal cities. So as I mentioned, some cities which exist today, after 100 years, maybe the cities will be under the water. So that is the level of alarming situation we are in. I don't want to scare you. I don't want to put you in doubts that, okay, by our generation, till the time our generation came to graduation and looking forward to life, you're saying that the world is ending. That's not the end of the day. Okay. So basically, I'll come to that also. The climate change impacting India, how I discussed right now, that the seasons are getting warmer. Okay. Average temperature rises by 2 degrees, which is predicted, which is really, really faster. Increased annual precipitation, lower frequency of rainy days, cyclonic disturbances, sea levels which are rising, fresh water supply which is coming down. So all these are impact. So I'm talking about all the problems till now. So see, I come from the startup world, right? And the beginning of the startup is we evaluate and understand what the problem is. Because for every problem, there is a solution. Okay, so there is definitely not the end of the world. Okay, so let's look at how can we solve these problems, what opportunities lie now due to this problem, right? When the IT wave occurred, there was a problem of lesser people having enough knowledge about IT. Okay, or there was a need of coming to the computerized age, because we realized that we cannot be doing things only by human hands. There was a fear at that time that, okay, if the computers replace the human beings, what will the human beings do? Just like today, we have a fear again that if the AI replaces our intelligence, then what do we do? Right? Similarly, what happens when there is fear, there is a problem, there always is a solution. So right now, we have a problem, right? So now how do we solve it? What do we do for it? Which are the areas which will open up as the opportunities? Whom do we approach for this? When do we do this? Who are the industries who are going to open up for us? Where is that, in India, outside India, and why? So we will be talking about it. But the best part is that when there is a problem, okay, we have to put in efforts and find a solution. And that is how the human being has evolved over the period of time. So this is definitely not the end of it. Maybe this is the beginning of giving back to the earth, okay, contributing to the earth, making use of the Pancha Mahabhutas in a way where in India, we basically, if you go to tribals even today, okay, whom do they worship? They don't do Murti Puja, right? They worship the elements. They worship the sun, they worship the land, right? The moon. So that is the level at which in India we actually worship and we value them. So it is time we start going back to our roots, valuing the Panchamahabhutas, giving back to the society. I'm not saying anywhere, I'm an economic professor and I'm an entrepreneur myself. I'm a very ambitious person. I'll never say at the cost of making lesser profits. No, not at all. Okay, so we are not talking about making lesser money, but we are talking about basically creating a ecosystem and economics with sustainable solutions. Okay, so now what happens is, whenever there is a change, what do we have to do? We have to start thinking out of the box, right? And that's where innovation takes place. Correct. So now, from the economic perspective of India, where I explained you all the climatic changes, the challenges that we have. Okay. So now I'll move to how do we solve it? Okay. And one of the major, most important aspect which comes here into picture is innovation. So I hope I'm able to make you understand till here. If yes, please type a yes in your chat box so that I will understand that things are clearer till now. Okay, Vijay, Varun, everybody's saying a yes. Kirti, thank you. All right. So we move ahead from here because I think I have scared you enough till this point where we understand what the problems are. And we all are eager to know that what ahead and what is it that is going to take us ahead, going to make us more employable, or as entrepreneur, going to open up opportunities for us, and how are we going to sail through in this situation? And the answer is innovation. Okay. So what is innovation? Innovation is not only about thinking out of the box all the time. Okay, if products alone aren't the full story, what is innovation? In a business context, innovation is the ability to conceive, to have an idea in your head, to develop. Only having an idea is no good, right? So to develop, to deliver the product, and to scale new products and services and the processes, business models for customers. The moment we say customers, who are the customers? Customers are the one who have the ability and the willingness to pay, right? So they are the ones who are in need of your product or service or process or your business model, and they have ability and willingness to pay you. So innovation in isolation without a commercial aspect is no good. Okay, there have been many scientists who invented something, or they discovered something, but it could never be implemented. So maybe it's never even covered in the books till date, because it didn't have the viability of being sold, of being used, of being transacted, right? So innovation is thinking out of the box, coming out with solutions which are innovative enough, sellable enough, implementable, and who will have customers for it. Okay. So now I'll quickly give you an example of the most innovative companies. I'm sure most of you all use best of the phones like iPhones, you know about Tesla, Amazon, Alphabet. These are all the top companies of the USA. So why are these the most innovative companies? What is it that they give a thought about all the time? They're trying to come up with innovative solutions. At every point in time, they try and think what is the current problem and how I can resolve it, how I can make it more beautiful in terms of the solution. So if the customer is facing problem with the camera quality, okay, the next version of the phone will be with the better camera quality, right? If the current scenario is most of the developed countries are facing a lack of manpower, Tesla wants to make driverless cars, right? So they identify the problems, they invest in it, and they innovate and they come up with a solution. Also, at the same time, there have been many such companies, which I'm sure you know about, okay, who failed, who had their demise because they never innovated. I'll give you quick examples like Enron. I'm sure most of you all know about it. Enron was an American agency. Okay, it employed more than 20,000 staff, and it was world's
Sorry to
major.
interrupt. Your slide
Yes,
is
ma'am.
not changing.
So we spoke about innovation, then we spoke about the most innovative companies of the world, right? And now we're talking about the ones who could not make it. I mean, they were the biggest, they were the giants of their times. Okay, 20,000 staff at that in that era. Okay, and it was one of the most required products. But Enron's demise came after a scandal which revealed the fraud also and the corruption, and they weren't innovative enough. I won't like to spend more time on this case study, but yes, I mean these are the case studies I cover, like BlackBerry. When you must have been very young or small, most of you all, when BlackBerry came as one of the first mobiles, okay, like Motorola and BlackBerry, and these were the ones. But what happened? They never innovated. They ignored the touchscreen concept, they ignored the feel and touch of the product, and Apple came. I mean, the Samsungs, the Apples of the world, they took it away, right? The Kodak. I am I'm sure you weren't even born when there was a Kodak moment actually. Okay, because it was founded in 1888, and I think by the time our parents, my parents, were using the cameras and all, I think Kodak was the biggest of that time. But what happened? They never realized, they never could figure out that the printable camera needs to get onto a digital world. They underestimated the capacity of human being wanting a better product, right? So every time the giant of that era or the leader of that era who did not move ahead with the wave of time, the need of time, the changing need of the customer, even if they were the biggest of that time, they failed. They failed to a level that they had to shut, right? So this is the power of innovation. So now that we have a problem, we know that we need to solve it. It cannot happen without innovative solutions. Why is innovation important in business? Right? Some companies do succeed at innovation. Our research considered how proficient 183 companies. This is one of the researchers from the economic this thing, where they have done an assessment that they found that the companies that harness the essentials of innovation see substantial performance edge that separates them from others, with the evidence that mastering innovation can generate economic profit. So that is the level at which innovation is important. Okay. Mercedes Benz is one of the classic examples again, that in a short span of time, they innovated their products and their efficiency rose by 25%. So how in today's world is the innovation measured? They call it as a green box. It's a matter of resource allocation and they solidify the tangible commitment. So what is this? So this is the phrase which refers to how you quantify the growth in the revenue and earnings. At the end of the day, whatever you introduce, if it doesn't quantify in your growth, in your profits, in your revenues, it is of no use. So as I mentioned, innovation also, till it doesn't quantify in terms of a transactional benefit, it will not be considered. So this is how corporates measure it. Okay, so if you become a part of a corporate in coming years and you are a part of the innovation team, your responsibility will be equally to prove that your innovation is helping in the commercial sense also. Okay, So utilizing the assets, the people, the management in a way, in an innovative and a smarter way, that your frame of innovation is implemented better. Okay. So now that we've already spoken about a lot of problems, let me talk to you about this, what Albert Einstein has to say. He said that if I were given 1 hour to save the planet, okay, we are pretty much talking about saving the planet, ourselves, our economic growth, everything. So if I were given 1 hour to save the planet, I would rather spend 59 minutes defining the problem and 1 minute resolving it. Okay. So I suggest as students, you all need to start getting more aware of your surroundings. Please evaluate that which are the industries, which are the problem areas, okay, which you all can see that have a potential risk in coming years, and assess it to the deepest level. So in that entire study, you could align your interests. You can ask that question to yourself, that what is it that my interest and the need of the hour, how I can align it with each other, right? And then you can be a part of the solution. So give enough time to understand what the problems are so that you can be a part of the solution. And always remember, problems are solved twice. First in your mind, and then in reality, okay, with tools and techniques. So never think that, okay, we have a problem which is unsolvable, right? Problems can always be solved. It's just about we have to put our mind to it, understand how I can be a part of the solution, and then what are the tools and techniques that I will have to adopt, learn the skills, and I can align myself. Okay. So when we're talking about this change, which is not really good, at the same time, there are solutions to all this. Okay. That if everything is going wrong, what is it that we can do in the right way to have it in the right way? So let's look at the opportunities also. The climate risk that we spoke about, okay, where we feel that, okay, is that the end of the world, vis-a-vis the opportunities. Okay. So if we don't take any action, what is going to happen? This is purely in a commercial sense. What is happening in real time world, we already spoke in terms of the crisis, in terms of how the environmental crisis is happening, which we all are facing already. Now, this is in a commercial sense, that if we do not take action, okay, we are going to eventually, as a country, if no action is taken to mitigate the climate risk, okay, we are eventually in coming years going to lose 7.14 lakh crores, which is huge. Okay. Now, how and why? Because most of the countries in Europe, I think 60% of the countries have declared themselves to be net zero, okay, where they want to be really, really less on the carbon emission. So now what happens here is, if we don't become a part of it, right, we will be started to getting fined on this. How? We are the exporters for many, many sectors. If we want to still continue to export to the European countries, they will have their own norms. Correct? So what will they say? That if you want to be a part of the trade going ahead, you will have to comply with our standards. So initially when the liberalization took place, right, what happened that time? That time also they had their norms. When we started exporting, they were not sure about what is the quality of our, say for example, somebody was into the exports of fabrics, right? So what did they say? That, okay, now you will have to prove that you meet our standards. So the requirement of that era, when liberalization took place, was to meet up with the quality. Quality from what perspective? From the perspective of, yes, am I audible? Yes, we have a question here. Yes. Yes, Lakshmi, you want to ask something? Yes. So we were talking about the risk and the losses that we may face, right? So I'm sure most of you all are also aware of OFAC and the countries, the norms in terms of the powerful countries in the world, basically like US, UK, they have the treaty. Okay, if somebody like Iran or Cuba or North Korea is acting very smart, what do? They put restrictions on their trade, right? I'm sure you all are aware that the war which is happening at the moment, okay, the Russia-Ukraine war is very much a part of all that, where they wanted to be a part of a bigger, stronger community, where Russia doesn't want Ukraine to be a part of that treaty, right? So it's on a global level, what happens is what you do in isolation in your country, okay, can remain good for you if you're not a part of the global trade. But the moment you want to open up yourself for bigger opportunities after liberalization, which I gave you the example of, you will have to basically follow the norms of that global trade. So in 1990s and 2000, what happened was they started asking us about the quality of the product, the packaging, the end use, and everything. So now times have changed. Okay, India has proven enough that how good we are in terms of our products. We have good amount of export. Okay, we are exporter for many things, which we are the top exporters. Okay, and now what happens is all this, even if you have the best of the quality, even if you are best at your trade finance in terms of the smoothness of the transaction, even if you're reliable, if you do not fit into the latest rule of the game, you will be fined. What is the latest rule of the game? The game has changed. Okay, so what happens is many of us feel that, okay, let us adhere to whatever is required to be done and we will be taken care of. But by the time we step into that rule, the game changes, and the game has changed now. The game is about not only being compliant in terms of the quality of the product, the service that you give, but also in terms of how are you contributing towards the mother earth. Because globally, the topic which everybody is extremely sensitized about is that how are our kids, for that matter, going to even sustain if we exhaust everything in coming 20, 25, 30 years, if the climatic changes, if the global warming is alarming enough that the world might just come to a point where it will be very difficult to even breathe without a mask or an oxygen cylinder, isn't it time now that we take steps? So they have agreed on a global level that yes, it is the time now that we look at economic growth, but only with sustainable solutions. Okay, so what happens is if you do not now fit in the zero net emission, being a net zero country, okay, if your product is not mentioning that, or your company doesn't declare how much carbon emission are you doing, okay, if you're not using the recyclable products, if you are not producing something which is recyclable in terms of the waste, okay, every point here will have some weightage. And if at all you don't fit in, you will be imposed with heavy duties. So merely it will become impossible for you to get into that transaction because of the duties, because you lose your appetite to earn profits in that transaction. So what happens is, as a country, you lose lakhs of crores. When I say lakh crores, just imagine the number of zeros I'm talking about. Okay. At the same time, now this is the risk that we are facing. This is a real problem that we are seeing commercially. Okay, climate crisis wise, I already explained that how things are changing environmentally. Now, this is a commercial problem that we are facing. So now we have actually in the funnel, what we have done, we started with a elaborate problem. We understood the environmental repercussions of it. And now we have come to the economical and the transactional commercial impact of the problem. So we are trying to zero it down and to understand, okay, now our problem, let's focus on the commercial bit of it at the moment. So the commercial problem, if solved, what will it have? It will have commercial benefits. It is as simple as that. So now the point is, are we playing the right game? And are we playing the game with the latest rules? Because remember, every time you start playing a game, the rules of the games change. And that's where your competitor, your colleagues, your competitive nation takes one step ahead. So now the question is, we have identified the problem commercially. Are we now ready as a country to provide solutions, okay, which are more sustainable, which have net zero kind of a promise, which have lesser carbon emission, okay, which where we are planning to use more renewable energy, okay. And if we do all this, what is the solution that we are looking at? If we do all this, if sensible action is taken, rupees 2.9 lakh crore of opportunity is standing right in front of us. So we are talking about a great deal of economic benefit here. And who is the generation who becomes a part of it? It's your generation who becomes a part of it. Correct? So anybody who has a doubt, please ask till now. Let's have it as an interactive session because I've covered a couple of points. I'd like you all to ask me if you have any query. Is it clear till now? Are you going with the flow? Is there anything you want me to add? Please mention if it is clearer or you're able to understand. Please write a yes. It will be helpful for me to go ahead.
Yes, ma'am. Myself, Abhay. Am I audible?
Yes, Abhay. Yes, you are.
Yeah. So,
Yes, Abhay. You want to ask a question?
Ma'am,
that's
ma'am, I think your slide is not moving.
okay.
It's still at the
Actually,
climate risk.
yeah. I have not gone ahead yet.
Okay, ma'am. Okay, yeah, fine.
Yeah. I just still
I
wanted to
was,
understand. Yes, Abhay. Go ahead.
yeah. So I was mentioning just you just mentioned that being as a competitive being in a competitive market, the norms are being changed. Okay, the exports are being challenging for us, and when we learn new thing that okay, this needs to be maintain our quality, we need to be maintaining our quality, we maintain our quality, but there is the net carbon zero policy has occurred. Okay, the new policy has occurred. So if this is the thing, okay, so uh, wouldn't be it it wouldn't be it for us that we will not able to meet the exact we will not able to use our full capacity to exports or do the business because every time the every 10 years or 15 years when they change the norms or when they change some guidelines, okay, it will be challenging for us. So it's better in advance that we it better in advance that our government or whosoever is responsible at the world stage so that we are pre means we have proper information that
Pre-informed.
what should
Yes,
be done. Yeah,
correct.
pre-informed that what should be done, and remaining what should be what might be changing in 10 or 15 years should be prepared before in advance for us as well.
Right. It's a very valid question, Abhay. And at your age, when you are all studying for graduation, post-graduation, when you are aspiring to be a part of a bigger system, like a corporate or to become an entrepreneur, or maybe if you want to get into exports, right? Your worry is, shouldn't the government pitch in at the moment? Am I correct? Shouldn't the guidelines in our country also be supportive enough and educative enough?
Yes, yes.
Right? Right? Yes. Okay. So I like to explain this. This is a very valid question and a very genuine question, actually, as a student, that if there are so many things which are changing in the world, and if it is expected that so many things need to be replanned, redesigned, okay, reapproached the way we were looking at and represented, isn't it at a company level, at a government level, the intervention needs to happen? Okay. And the answer to this is yes, it needs to be. And a positive answer to this is our government is one of the leading governments at the moment to take actions. Okay. So the all the companies, the biggest corporates, organizations are working towards it. Okay. Every company, how there was an era of IT when you had an innovation team, now it has a sustainability team. Okay. So this also opens up an opportunity for you all to understand. I'll also come to what all the career avenues which are going to open up due to all this. Okay. So every company has got a sustainability team. Correct. So now what is the job of that company? To understand the entire policy. Now the policies are being issued by the government. Okay. There's a committee by the government who is working exclusively on this. Okay. So now these policies will be implemented at a country level. Okay, then they'll be implemented at an organizational level, which is already started happening. All right. I'll give you a couple of examples also of, say, Tata Power for that matter, or Mahindra. I have it in the case study also. I will take it to you, take you there also. Where the company, and as you said, if these changes are expected in coming 5, 8 years, 10 years, isn't it now that we should start planning about it? Yes. It is now. And in fact, companies at that level, like Tata, Birlas, Mahindras of the world, they don't even look at 10 years, they look at 50 years, correct? Because their investments are in millions. And these investments are actually looked at for 20 years ahead, 30 years ahead, and the investments are done accordingly. There might be a need of changing their equipments, their machinery, their products, their offerings. And a very, very simple example of this is, okay, the change in the vehicles. Any change that you all have seen visibly in the way vehicles have been operating, the cars. Anybody wants to answer this question?
Yeah.
You mean hybrid cars or
Yes.
electric cars?
Yes, yes. So where do we want to reach gradually? We want to reach to electric cars where we will have no emissions, right? But of course, we have a little or a big deal of difficulty at the moment for the charging units, the logistical supply of the battery, the electricity, right? So we want to have no, exactly as Varun said, move towards electric, no carbon emission is our final goal. But the middle step is what? We're already reaching the hybrid model. So now, just I think somebody else also has a question. Just give me a minute. Let me just answer this question, please. So, so as we are talking about no carbon emission and moving towards that, a step in between, because we don't have enough logistical arrangement for the electric charging stations at the moment, is hybrid. But eventually, the government has a plan that there'll be millions of vehicles in the country which will be only electrically working, right? I mean, there is a particular year till which they want to have 70% of the vehicles to be converted to electric. In fact, our government has a bigger goal that they want to, I, there's some number in millions, that million electric buses are being introduced in India. Because there was a research which was done. In every aspect, there is a research being done at a government level, and the industry and the corporates are being called for meetings, and they are being educated, and newer rules and regulations are being informed to them. So now, why electrical vehicles? Because if you look at the population of India, okay, if you look at the population of US, if practically every person also drives his car on the road, it is feasible to have it. But in India, it is impossible to have those many cars on the road. How much infrastructure will be even built? So eventually, we have no choice but to have a better public transport. And that should be the government's utmost responsibility to provide right now. Okay, so gradually they are moving towards electric buses. In fact, by 2040, the government of India has a goal to be the largest exporter of electronic vehicles and the electrical buses for that matter. Okay, just like we want to be the exporter of the solar energy. So steps at that level are being taken. The corporates are being called, educated, the policies are being issued, okay, and all these steps. And that is why I'm sure Dr. Shukla also wanted you all to have a perspective of things, that how things are changing, and are we aware enough about these things, and how can you all be a part of it? Okay, Abhay, I hope I have answered your question. If you have any further doubt, please tell me.
Yes, ma'am, truly. And as you mentioned, that the government is being taking steps. Yes, I truly agree with that point also. And just like PLI schemes or government recent 10 days before, also government has made a scheme uh, that 50% will be invested from government side if they use electric vehicle or produce electric vehicle. So I
Yes.
agree with this points, and basically this will help us and our coming generations also.
Yeah,
Thank
definitely.
you.
So, yes, thank you. Yes, somebody else also had a question.
Yeah, good morning, madam. I have a question. Like you rightly
Yes,
said, we are moving from this carbon and petrol to electric for zero emissions and to have a zero carbon footprint.
right.
But like the electricity, what is being produced, that also has some resources to be absorbed, just like nuclear or the hydraulic. So
Absolutely.
that area also needs to be understood. Like suppose if you are burning a lot of coal, that will also have an impact on the environment. Okay. So
Definitely.
always like for a corporate, it is necessary to review what will be the impact as well as the aspect, because only
That is
making
true.
the infra is not a think, because it will consume the land. Like if you see, like there are now it is all everything is moving from green to concrete. So we can rightly say that now it is a concrete jungle. So due to
It
this,
is.
in future, I think people might be using oxygen cylinders also to survive. What is been evaluated by many of the innovators. You can see, like already
True.
it has been in the media. Like has we traveled carrying fuel in our vehicles? So for people or water bottles, the next need may be like they may travel with a oxygen cylinder just to live. So that is also, like I mean to say, along with the innovation, we also need to think like whether it is impacting the nature or not, because if the nature is safe, then we are safe.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, as you are saying rightly, that with the growth, the economic growth, and everything that is evolving, eventually, if we don't have what it needs to live on Earth, what are we even going to do with it? And that's a very, very correct statement and an approach. Unfortunately, we are a little late on a world level to have realized it. It's only when you come closer to the crisis you realize, okay, we need to deal with it. But nevertheless, okay, on a world forum, on a country forum, we have taken this up as the biggest challenge of the times of your era, especially because you all are the ones who are going to be actually coming into the employment grind now, right? So this is the focal point, if I have to tell you. Okay. So whichever stream you are also learning and taking your degree, all right, tomorrow you will be a part of a company who has to have net zero carbon emission. It has to be a net zero. It needs to use the products which are recyclable. It has to have a waste which is recyclable. So everything is changing. Okay, I'll come to that slide. Okay. And as you rightly said, that only innovation, how is it going to help? Okay, so I will also talk about that. We'll get back to this slide. Is it visible to everybody?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. So now that we are talking and you're all going in the right direction, that okay, we understood the problem. It's a big challenge at the moment. We might not even have enough resources to breathe or to have water. So what is it that the government is doing? What are the actions? How are we going to take care of it? So this is how the right policies and the immediate actions, if taken, much lower carbon emissions and improved contribution towards sustainability is possible. Okay. So what are the major technological opportunities that need to be tapped at the moment? Artificial intelligence. So when we say artificial intelligence, okay, integration of AI can predict the demand and supply maximization. It can maximize the renewable energy. AI integration can help save much more electricity with fewer steps. So for example, in biggest of the corporations, okay, what have they implemented? They have implemented the softwares of AI to understand the total consumption of electricity, how it could be reduced, what voltage could be, used to make it much lesser, where the solar panels can replace, that much electric saving can happen. So there's a lot of technology at the end of the day. Now we want a change in the way things are happening. Okay. And now we want it very fast. So with our manual intervention, okay, we have a limited capacity. So we have computers, but now we need AI also. Why? Because there's a lot of data, there's a lot of analysis and outcome which we want to generate. And this is how AI will come into picture. I'll give you a very simple example of the way farmers operate for that matter. Okay, if a farmer, for example, has a 50-acre land parcel and he is into some crops. Okay, now he doesn't know in the middle of the 25th acre, okay, how much is his productivity destroyed because of the toads, okay, or the insects who are eating the crops. So what happens is he is showering heavy fertilizers, which are not sustainable in terms of we eating them also. We know that the kind of diseases which are increasing because of the use of such pesticides and fertilizers. And secondly, he's killing the productivity of the soil, right? So how AI will come into picture here? So there are agencies and newer startups for that matter who are coming up with innovative drones who will actually fly over that 50 acre. okay, and give him an analysis of, okay, these are the acres where you actually need to put this amount of fertilizers. This is a patch where you actually need not use that much. So you are saving your energy in terms of manual intervention. You're saving your cost. Okay. You're ensuring that you're not ruining the soil entirely. So there is every industry, okay, is coming up with such kind of a solution. If you Google it after this meeting, if you do a research, you will realize how the world is changing and how you all need to be a part of it now in coming years. Okay. So there is everything which is changing. And this is, as you all mentioned, it has to be a top to bottom approach. If I as a citizen decide how, what is it that I can do, I can just simply in my house, I can just segregate the waste, saying this is plastic dry waste and this is renewable, and that is the level at which I can operate, right? But it has to be a top to bottom approach. But believe me, it has started, and that's the best part of this entire scenario. So you are in fact being a part of the world which is totally changing. I won't be surprised if my kids carry a water bottle everywhere they go, even to a movie theater, of a glass water bottle. Even if they have to go from one city to other, and the plastic use and the required packaged bottles use totally vanishes. So now we also at our level will take these actions, but primarily, as you said, it has to be top to bottom, which is increasing. Okay. So now, talking just about the innovation, just to give you one more perspective of it, in couple of countries, they have used the seaweed or some recyclable product, okay, which becomes like a bubble. If you burst that bubble, you can drink the water, and then you can just throw it, and it's like anything which can give a mineral or a you can say a ingredient to the soil. So this is the level at which now, but what happens is we are at a very initial stage right now. So what happens is there's a lot of investment, and the giant corporations have to bear the cost. So at the same time, what is government trying to do? Government is trying to go all in and give you grants, give you subsidies. So please go Google this also, that which are the newer industries who are getting more grants, who are getting that support. They'll be having lesser taxation. Okay, they'll get subsidies. So government is trying to support all out for this, because the companies will have to initially make that investment and bear the brunt of it. But in the long term, things are changing. And this has already got initiated in a very positive way. Okay. So in fact, I also am one of the core committee members at one of the foundations called JB Shroff Foundation. We work at Sustainable Solutions. So we had Mr. Amitabh Kant as one of our speakers, who is the G20 Sherpa, okay, and who is the topmost economist of our country. And in that session, the kind of vision he gave changed our perspective towards how things are moving faster. What is the level at which PM Modi ji is even planned, even 2047, the 100th year of our independence, and what are our visions from the sustainable solution point of view in the 100th year of our independence. So that is the level of planning they all have done. Okay, and I'll come to a couple of things which will give you more clarity on that. Okay, so artificial intelligence, as I said, then digitalization, okay, making most of the thing digitalized so that we save on paper and printing and all of that. Machine learning, learning the computer languages is going to be equally important even this in this era, because there is no substitute to creating faster solutions through coding and language use in the computers. Okay, so steps to decarbonize. So these are all the policies and major technological opportunities which lie in front of us. So many countries like EU and USA will come up with the norms to change, to charge fines if decarbonization norms are not met with in coming 5 years, as I said. So what happens is, a company which is big enough and who wants to remain profitable, we will have to. So what happens when you have a small child, okay, who is troubling you? Okay, firstly you'll talk nicely and explain and say, "Beta, please mat karo, okay, behave." Then what will you say? You'll raise your voice. Then maybe you'll give him a chocolate and say, "Okay, mat kar, shan baith ja, ye le." Even if he, after that, if he doesn't, what will you do? Sam, dam, danda, bhed. Okay. So when we say about danda, what is it? It's a fine. I told you enough number of times. I gave you a chocolate, I gave you a subsidy, a grant, everything. You still don't listen? Okay, face the brunt of it. You have a fine to pay. So your profitability is gone for a toss. So they are putting everything in a perspective. Okay. But only encouraging them and educating them is not going to be enough. Because at the end of the day, the corporations need to be profitable. So how they can remain profitable? By giving them chocolates in terms of the subsidies, in terms of the grants, benefits of taxation. Even after that, they don't care about it. They will no longer remain uh, in the market because they are playing a wrong game, because they'll be fined. Okay, so that is the way in which they are making all the big corporations come into the sustainable solution kind of a contribution. Okay. So net zero, what is net zero? If we have to talk about net zero, is a climate outcome where any greenhouse emissions through man-made sources are countered by removing such gases in equal amount. So basically, when we say our country wants to become a net zero in 4 to 5 years, that is the commitment that we all have. So what does that mean? That the climate outcome where the greenhouse gases emitted into the atmosphere are balanced with the removal of equal amount. So you are trying to balance the, what are they trying to calculate through AI and through technology, that this is my actual emission, this is the harm I'm doing, at the same time this is what I'm contributing, so this is got compensated. So the step one is net zero all across the world, that everybody has to adopt, right? Now, strategies for increasing profitability while maintaining sustainability. See, we need to understand, unless the corporations and organizations remain profitable, they cannot pay their employees. They cannot, I mean, at the end of the day, if you're going to work for a company, for that matter, you're an employee of Mahindra, okay, and they start making lesser profits and they start giving you yearly increment, will you be happy? No. So from a corporation's point of view, when people is also the equal pillar, it is important that enough profits are made and distributed. So from a corporation point of view, they have to think about a lot of things, right? So they have to maintain their profitability while maintaining the sustainability. But the best part is, at least now we are talking about it, at least we are implementing it, at least this is started where it was never a part of any corporation's goals. Okay, what we used to see with the bigger corporations, the visions, the missions, right? Now in the vision and mission, they have started mentioning that net zero, we are sustainable. They are more marketable if they're sustainable, which is a very big change for our country and for the world. And believe me positively, it will contribute to something very, very good in coming years. So the amount of damage we have done, if it drops, we will at least balance it out and stretch it further much more, right? So talking about the circular economy, now what could be the strategies for increasing the profitability? First strategy for our country will be to have a circular economy. So what is the benefit that we as India have? Okay, the benefit that we as India have is our population. Okay, why so? Can anybody explain? I mean, we know population is the biggest culprit, and for which, more is less for our country. So how can I say that population is good for our country at the moment? Does anybody want to explain?
Because for doing anything we require resource, and the resource what is being required is as per the age criteria,
Yes.
because what the current age we have is the teenage age, like who can work, think, and act upon. So that is very
Absolutely.
beneficial for India.
Yes, this is correct. Actually, it's a correct answer. India has the number of young people. Yes, Varun, largest. The population increases. The demand, somebody, Imran is saying. So all these points actually make us a circular economy. What are these points? I hope my slides are visible.
Yes.
Are they visible? Yeah. So now that you spoke about this, let me just take you to this slide. Is that visible? More than 4 in 10 people in India are under 25 years old. Visible, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So if you look at it, what happens here? Firstly, when we talk about a circular economy, what happens is घर का पैसा घर में रहता है. Okay, you have production units, you have people, as you said, because the age is this, we have enough manpower for production, for services, for skilled labor. Now what happens? We are only producing, our people are only getting the wages, salaries, and income. And then what is produced is getting consumed by us only. We don't even need any other country to buy our products. So that is an add-on for us. What we export is, maybe in a couple of years we won't be able to export because we will just be taken, we could just take care of our economy in terms of consumption, in terms of the demand. Because see, more the population like Germany, 80% of their population is above 65. They are just giving a red carpet welcome. Let me tell you, if any of you all want to go abroad, you can evaluate Germany. Without a visa, they are giving you an opportunity to stay there for a year and evaluate, can you take up a job? To that level, they have a crunch of skilled people, people who are of that age. Most of their population is above 65. So how will a country grow? For us, one of the reasons why it is a positive news is because we want to have a circular economy where most of our population who is engaged in the production of the goods and services is that age, and the consumption also happens here. So we are self-dependent, we are independent basically. Okay. Second is energy efficiency. So now what all strategies need to be incorporated for this profit maintenance of profit is energy efficiency, because at the end of the day, if you are using your resources carefully, your costs are going to come down, right? So from a profitability perspective also, if you're paying up a bill for an electric bill, which is say for example in lakhs for your organization, maybe your option is to go in for the solar energy, which is one time investment but zero amount of electricity bills. For after a year and two, you will actually recover your capital, and then it is a total benefit that you have, right? In fact, you can go one step further and start selling those solar units. Okay. So this is the kind of strategy we are talking about, which most of the corporations have, believe me, they have started implementing already. Okay. Supply chain optimization. How are we going to talk about the logistical part of it? Okay. How can we make it more sustainable in terms of what kind of fuel is going into it? How much travel from, factory till the wholesale unit? So how can we build maybe different maybe disintegrated factories from where the travel and the logistical part could be taken care of? Product innovation, maybe the way in which the products was designed have to be changed. Now, as you all rightly said, isn't it the time that we have to get into the planning? Yes. Planning for changing the logistics, planning for changing the packaging, planning for, in fact, even coming up with newer products. That is the need of the hour, and that is what is going to make these companies more profitable. They are aware of it, they have started taking care of it. Okay. Stakeholder engagement. When all this happens, okay, on a geopolitics level, which is the most promising country at the moment apart from China? India, right? And China has its own constraints, so nobody's interested, especially after COVID. So most of these stakeholders, the FIIs, where do they want to put money? They want to put money in India. So if you comply with all these norms, we are only going to get more and more investments for manufacturing of different things in India and to export them. Because of our population, the demographics, the costs become much lesser in India for them, but the quality remains intact and we remain important for the world. Okay, so just look at the opportunities which are opening up. Okay, for decades we sat on the problem of sustainability, nobody paid a heed. Then the innovators understood, okay, this is the crisis we are already evaluating, we are going to be in a big problem. And what happened? We started now taking steps. Fine, maybe we are a little late, definitely, but at least we have taken steps now and we are doing it. Okay. So nature doesn't bill us for her services. We live in the mistaken belief, okay, that economic growth represents sustainable progress. What we feel, see, look how much we grew economically. So that means sustainability is also progressing. No, you did it at the cost of the Mother Earth. Rapid deterioration of the natural assets puts the availability of the every resources that power our growth at a serious risk. Every time you're growing economically, you are actually putting of your existence, that risk you're putting there. So now at least all the corporations, governments, the world has understood this. Okay. Reconfiguring business to operate viably within planetary boundaries is the next frontier that we must scale. It is humongous transformation that presents amazing opportunities and also has enormous risks. If you don't adopt, you're gone. So that is the level at which you need to adopt, you need to be more innovative, you need to be problem solvers, you need to apply your knowledge for a better sustainable solution. Just to give you a quick case study, it's already 11:10 almost, so I will hurry up a little in this. So talking about Mahindra Story, the real impact of sustainability lies in actions taken where planet, people, and profit, everything overlaps. So Mahindra has been one of the pioneers, just like Tata's, okay, where they have already adopted to a lot of environment and sustainability related good steps. The group has embraced sustainability as a new idea of sustainable business, demanded that it go beyond the shareholder centric view and embrace the stakeholder centric worldview. This ethos is enriched in the Mahindra sustainability framework. So now, as I told you, in their vision, in their mission, in their ethos, they're trying to mention this is who we are, which is a very positive news. So what they said, what matters to them? People, as I told you, I mean, if you're the employees, the company needs to be profitable enough to give you growth. That is how the economy will also sustain, right? So it is about building great workplace where people achieve their full potential. When we say achieve full potential in terms of compensation also, it is also about fostering inclusive growth in the society. When we talk about the planet, what do they mean? The second pillar of sustainability, they feel that basically Mahindra is committed to being a carbon neutral group by 2040. They'll be neutral, so there will be no emission. Whatever they are creating is getting nullified. So this is the aim at which they are working, and the decisive steps towards the same on carbon, water, waste management, every aspect have been started taking place. Profit, the third pillar of sustainability. The biggest reason why we can expect organizations to contribute significantly towards achieving climate goals is that climate action makes business sense. Unless it makes business sense, it won't be possible for businesses to adopt to this. So, as I told you, how it makes business sense, because they get grants, they get taxation benefit, they get subsidies, and they fit in as per the rule of the game. So, they remain viable to do a transaction. Okay, so they have got multiple recognitions on world level already, which is very, very encouraging. So most recently on Wall Street Journal also, they ranked 17th in the list of sustainability managed businesses. These recognitions are positive affirmations that the group's ethos and practice is responsible for sustainable stories. So this is how it is going ahead. PM Modi's vision.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So what is Modi's vision in here? By 2047, when India becomes 100 in terms of we'll be 100 years old, independent, rather than being an importer of fossil fuel. Okay, we are at the moment using a lot of fossil fuel. We should be rather leading exporter of clean energy. Okay, it might be in terms of solar energy, it could be exporting the electric vehicles and the buses, as I told you. So now I stay in Mumbai. Okay, they have constructed this beautiful, huge Atal Setu here. And we were residing in Pune for last 2 years because my husband had a transfer and now we came back here. In these 2.5 years, I mean, I didn't even know about Atal Setu. And in 4 or 5 years, when I come back, I see this Setu to be built. And then I think about it, that what level of vision, what level of planning, execution, what we haven't even thought of, they have started thinking 10 years back. For them to make an Atal Setu in 2024, I'm sure they started off in 2016 or 15 to plan, to have a team, to have the strategic planning, execution, right? So yes, they are thinking ahead. And I'm really proud to be a citizen of India. And I hope you all are also equally proud that by 2047, we will be the exporters of solar power. We will be the exporters of electric vehicles to the world. Okay. So we spoke about the circular economy, which gives us a very big advantage where basically the products, services, everything is being basically circulating in the same economy. So now to give you a perspective of when I am talking to you all, the young budding students who want to become employable, who have aspirations, multiple dreams, and a world full of possibilities, right? how you all need to adopt to this. So what I've observed is, very frankly, when I sit for startup interviews or even any job interviews for any companies, people have degrees, okay? They have information, but they lack knowledge. They don't know how to apply that information. That is the difference between information and knowledge. If you don't know what to do with the information, information is at a click of a button, and we all understand it. By the chat GPT coming in and everything, I don't think information has any value in today's day. So if there are rote learners who are going to tell me about what a debit and credit is, how physics works, I'm not interested. Okay, as a new entrepreneur, as a part of this sustainable world, whom do we want? We want people who understand what the problem is, and they'll tell, depending on their knowledge, that how they have a capacity to solve the problem. So now what happens? Your applied knowledge comes into picture. Effective relationships. If they lack on their EQ, emotional quotient, it is of no use. There are thousands of geniuses in this world, lakhs and millions of them, but they all don't do well. Believe me, right? Because they don't understand the importance of the EQ. Okay, workplace skills, they are not skilled. So your attitude, your application of knowledge, and what is required at that workplace, acquiring that skill, all this is going to be extremely important for you, because everything is changing. See, if the industry is changing, if the country is changing its expectations, if every corporation is changing the way they are going to deliver, they want people who are smart. They already are under a lot of pressure, right? So they want to come up with products which are sellable, they want to make profits, they want to be sustainable. So they want to have people who are innovators, who are problem solvers, who have interpersonal skills, who know how to use technology. Knowing technology and using technology, these are two different things. So sit back and think about all this. That till now you have gained a lot of information. You will be having a degree very soon. What will be the value of the degree unless you are able to apply, unless you're skilled, unless you know about the world, what is happening, what is geopolitics in the startup world, what is happening, okay, in the IT world, what is it, in manufacturing, what is it? You have to start reading. Okay, you have to build your communication skills, because how much ever you know, you're not able to express today. By now, you maybe you think that I knew certain things which I told you, right? Maybe they might have been useful to you, but if I couldn't have communicated, what will I do with all this knowledge? So isn't communication important? So you all will have to start working on all this. Okay, I quickly want to tell you which are the areas which are going to open up for you in terms of the new jobs. Okay, economically, moving away from linear economy to a model of circular economy, that means more than 10 million jobs are going to get created. So Modi ji's biggest vision at the moment is to have enough entrepreneurs, enough support in terms of creating jobs. And sustainable solutions is one of the area where new jobs are going to be created. So that's a very good news coming your way. Okay. Now in industrial, which are the areas where you all can look out in terms of which are the fields which are going to open up? Okay. It could be electronic vehicles, it could be metals. There are so many startups which are coming up with sustainable solutions. It might be just a metal scrap related startup who is already into doing a top line of crores per year. Okay, believe me. So don't underestimate any of these fields. They're all going to be equally important. Okay, electronic waste management, use of lithium, as somebody said that we are talking about having more of electric vehicles, but how about the batteries? So use of lithium, agricultural waste management, tire rubber cycling, and the list goes on. Actually, this is not inclusive of all the fields, but this is just a flavor that you can get, that these are all the new avenues which are opening up. When you talk about agriculture, technology based green agriculture, different ways of irrigation, soil testing, drones, use of fertilizers, right? When we talk about FMCG, what is going to change? Their packaging, because that is the biggest waste, right? The packets that we use, the products, they need to be redesigned. Product delivery, logistics, and which are the green sectors which are opening up, like biofuels, like nature-based solutions, environmental jobs, and the biggest and the most important focal point of our country at the moment, okay, apart from the solar and the electric buses and vehicles, is green skilling. What do we know? What do we understand by green skilling? It is creating skilled workforce, okay, who understand how to operate in the sustainable solutions kind of an area. So till now, if the carpenters, the electricians, everybody, they were used to working in a particular setup, things are changing now. The machines are going to change, the electric panels are going to change, they're going to be connected with the solar. So you need the force who is skilled to actually absorb it, because there'll be a big gap that at the top level everything was strategized, everything was done, implemented, but the labor force doesn't understand this, right? And by 2047, when we will be 100 years old, we plan, in fact, we promise to provide 30% of world's skilled manpower. So just look at the way in which India is going to be more and more in demand. Because I am a part of another NGO. I'm a trustee there called Janaseva Foundation, where we have adopted many. My parents have actually founded this in 35 years back in 1987. We have old age homes, we have rehabilitation center, we have hostels for boys and girls where we actually pick up kids from the street. Okay, so all these underprivileged kids stay with us. So the biggest project I am leading at the moment is skilling. Okay, because these kids who are underprivileged, who don't understand what a circle and a diameter is, okay, they are not interested in going to a school. Somehow they stay with us, we enroll them with the municipal schools around our facility in Carthage, and now we are introducing them to skilling because we want to show them a bigger picture that, see, even if you don't know the entire education part of it, okay, you can still become a plumber and earn about 30 or 1,000 per month. And this is the rate at which today the plumbers and carpenters are earning. Okay, I mean, in tomorrow's world, the CAs and the carpenters might earn similar amount of money. That is the importance of skilling, which is increasing in the world. Okay, so these are all the avenues which basically open up for you all, for our kids, for all the younger generation, and things are changing basically. So you need to understand you're a part of a wave. So align yourself, do a little bit of research from your end, and I'm sure you'll figure out that where is your area of interest, because your of interest and the wave, the requirement of the wave, at one point you will find where your placement is. So that will be the best kind of a scenario. Nothing of this can happen without technology, correct? So if you are more inclined towards technology, please invest your time in that, because technology has never had an alternative and will never have an alternative, correct? So you'll have to start working on these things. See, I do a lot of leadership programs, entrepreneurship, and all of this, and this is one of the first slides I show to them. Okay, leadership and entrepreneurship is a mindset. So most of you all might not want to be a leader or an entrepreneur, but you would want to take up a job, right? So in your capacity in that job, you should be a leader. You should own it up as your business. So if you are a part of a bigger corporation, what the corporation is expecting from you? The corporation wants smaller entrepreneurs only there, okay, running their own shops in their corporation in terms of the mindset. Okay, so if you have a mindset of a leader or an entrepreneur and that kind of an attitude, you will become irreplaceable. Okay, and unless one internalizes this, that why do I need to do this? What is it that I need to do? What is the want and need of the hour? Then the only path to connect why and what is how. Okay, but you need to be very sure of why you want to be a leader, or why you want to have a mindset of an entrepreneur or of innovator, of a problem solver, of a critical thinker. Frankly, from my side, if you have to know the reason, if you have to sustain as an employable resource, you will have to have these attributes. So it may just give you an answer to why you need these skills. Okay, because if you don't have, somebody else will have it, right? There are thousands and millions of MBAs roaming around today, but not all are getting the jobs. Why? Because these are the reasons, that they have degrees, but they are not a complete package, they are not employable, right? So we have to start working on all those things. So what will you get? You'll get a steady job, you'll get a good growth. And how you need to do it? You have to invest your time. That's the process, right? So every journey is incomplete without following the process. So specific actions will have to be taken in this regard. Okay. I hope it was clear till now. I think it's time for question and answer. If you all have any doubts, if you understood the session till now, if you've liked it, please type it in the chat box.
Yeah.
It'll be very encouraging for me to know that it was useful, or it made some impact, it helped you in a way. If yes, please type yes. And yeah, somebody asked me which company am I a person on. So it's Jana Seva Foundation. I'll just type it here. It's an NGO. And otherwise, I have my own business, which is I'm into wellness actually. And apart from that, as mentioned, I'm a mentor to startups and I do corporate trainings under the name of Trainings Matter. So you can find my LinkedIn profile actually under Ketki Deshpande. Not able to type here. Okay, I'm not able to type, but maybe Pritha ma'am can send you my LinkedIn profile. Okay, so you will get to know more about it.
Yes, ma'am. I'll do that.
Yes. Any
Yeah.
doubts, any questions, please feel free to ask me. I'll be really happy to answer them. I leave
Students, if
this
you
forum
have
open.
any questions, you can raise your hands and we can take the questions one by one.
Madam, I have one question. Like, if you see, like in US also, there was one era, like India, there were many startups, okay? And finally, everyone couldn't succeed. And then there was a evolution of a General Motors company who ate all the startups and then started making automotive cars for the, like, since it was a bigger giant, like even it is a common phenomenon everywhere. If you see, like in the ocean or sea, or even in industry or in the environment, like where there are big players, they normally try to eat the small
Yeah. The
players.
bigger player leads the smaller player. Correct.
Yeah. So, like in India also, we see like each and everyone wants to have their own startup and wants to grow, but the political, then also, like you can see, like the economical, they are not successful in that manner, because like at some phase they find there is a crunch in the investment or in the capital. And also, like whenever we invest, we to get the returns, it takes a pretty much more time. Okay.
Correct.
So due to which, like we find that many of the people try to sell off their ideas, or like just to give it to somebody and just come out of it, and to get a job and do it from 9 to 6 and get a stable income is majorly a thought process of most of the
Yes,
people who are working.
that's true. It's a very valid question, actually, that every time there has been a wave of startups in any country, okay, it has reached its stagnancy. I'll not deny that. Okay, with India also, it's the kind of fundings we were getting before, or the VCs who were pumping in money. Okay, if that was that wave of increasing number of VCs and FIs putting in money, it has reached a level where it has become stagnant. Now, when we say stagnant, what does that mean? See, primarily when somebody puts in money in a startup like a VC, okay, they all have an idea that out of 10, okay, out of 10, 8 fail. So when they put in money, they know that the two ones who are going to actually succeed will make up for the 8 ones. Okay, so they basically put their money, वो घोड़े पे पैसा लगाते हैं, that kind of a thing. Right? So they put money in 10 things, only 2 succeed, but they cover up for these 8. Okay, so now from a perspective of an individual who aspires to get into a startup or become an entrepreneur, let me be extremely clear and open to you to tell you that it's not an easy journey. So an entrepreneur is a slave of 24 by 7 around the year, where you cannot afford to even sleep for months, as you said, till things really streamline. It takes a lot of time, effort, patience, everything. So when we have aspiring budding students who really want to get into the startup, okay, we evaluate the model, we give them that perspective, whether it is doable, not doable, and we also advise not at the cost of your economic stability. So if possible, take up a job, okay, and launch something. At the same time, now talking about so many startups coming up, where are we going with all this? Okay, now there are two aspects of it. There are two ways of doing businesses. One way is the startup, the current wave business, where everybody is actually running behind the funding. Let me be very, very clear to you. Okay, so the day they want to actually, they come up with the idea, where I take them from the journey of ideation till funding. They want to know what is the journey till funding immediately. Okay, so unless you have passion to really put in your blood, soul, everything into the business, not caring for the funding part of it initially, okay, to sustain, by first is bootstrapping. When we say bootstrapping, it's putting in your own money or family or friends, right? You should be able to sustain. Okay, then maybe take a loan or whatever, and then funding is something which is years later. So are you ready for that journey? So that is one way of leading it. And second way of leading it, for example, I'll tell you from my perspective, it's a wonderful journey to have if you know that, okay, this is a bracket in which I want to work as an entrepreneur. This is a monthly income I'm going to get, and I'm very happy about it. Of course, I diluted my stake and I encashed it and stuff like that. That's a different story. But organically drawn businesses, if you look at Gujarat, if you look at many such states where you are just being an organically driven business, where you have 4 to 5 outlets, okay, you're contributing to the society, and that's a pure organic business. You're doing business, you're getting money. There is no valuation funding attached to it. It's a very safe zone to get into that kind of a business, because you are doing something substantial, which is value for money. So no one can touch you there. But if you get into the rut of the startup, where you take funding, you take money, actually taking funding is losing more of your sleep. Once you receive funding, your life is gone. Okay, so that's a difficult journey. I know personally a couple of people whom I have seen to become 1,000 crore company in last 10 years in front of my eyes, but they don't have any other life than just that. But yes, is it possible? I will not deny, I have seen entrepreneurs doing it. But is it risk free? No, not at all. So what is risk free? To do an organic business which will fetch you yield, give you a standing in the society, and you can still sleep at night peacefully. And of course, at the end of the day, I mean, my husband, for example, is into a job. Today's salary is, not all businessmen can earn that much, the amount of salaries which a salaried professional also gets. So that also one cannot underestimate, working with big corporations and being salaried. So these are all good options. It depends on how much perseverance and passion you have to do what. Okay, I hope that answers your question.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, thank you. We have one more question from Adil. Ma'am, is this only one session, or we will get more chances to connect with you? Well, I think Dr. Shukla and Pritha ma'am will definitely guide you on that. I will
We
really like
will
to connect with you all again. Yes,
definitely, ma'am. We will definitely would like to have you again. Once we decide
sure,
it internally, we can get back to you on that.
definitely.
Yes.
I hope I
Can
have
we have,
clarified most of the doubts here. If you have any
yes,
more questions, please let them come.
any more questions? We can have one or
Uh,
two.
yes, I do have. So, myself, basically,
Yes.
Ketki ma'am, the thing is that you mentioned that being a salaried person, okay, salaried employed person, if you the organization seeks or organization wants that you work as a leader for your shop, okay, the term you used. So it's a truly a genuine thing that a person should be working with this motive. So how can be the person can be leader, or what steps need to be taken? Can you guide through me?
I'll narrate a quick story. I'll finish it in 1 minute, which I generally give in my leadership sessions. Okay. You all know about Lord Vishnu, right? One day he was sitting in his palace. Okay. And Lord Vishnu has two vehicles. One is Garuda, one is snake. Okay. Now, snake always feels that Garuda is the vehicle whom Lord Vishnu loves the most. and Garuda is gone somewhere out, and Snake is there at the moment in the palace. Something happens outside the palace, and the doorman, the security person, comes running to Lord Vishnu saying, "Ki sir, kuch ho gaya hai bahar. Something, some mishap has happened. Can you please come outside and can you just help?" So he says, okay. He tells the snake, the Sarpa, to go outside and evaluate what has happened. He goes, he sees a woman who's fallen with the pots of milk. He comes inside and he says, there's a woman who's fallen with the pots of milk. I have asked them to clear, don't worry. So Lord Vishnu says, but what happened? How did she fall? Just evaluate. No, what happened? Go back. So he goes back. He then comes back saying, her name is Ganga. I think she fell. There was a pit in front of the palace. She fell. He comes back. Now Lord Vishnu says, but why there was a pit and how much milk she lost? I hope she's not injured. Go figure it out. He goes. Okay, so it's such 50 visits to and fro. Every time he goes, gets one piece of information. Every time he goes, gets one piece of information. So is there that the master gave him an instruction but he didn't follow? No, he followed. Every time he went, he came back with the information. Now he's tired by now. Now Garuda comes. Okay. So Lord Vishnu looks at Garuda. He says, some mishap has happened outside the palace. Garuda, can you go and figure it out? So Garuda goes. He takes 10 good minutes. Okay. And he comes back. And he says, Lord Vishnu, there was a lady, there is a lady called Ganga. She travels, she walks from town A till town B every day with 3 pots of milk. Every pot has 8 liters of milk, and that is the cost of the milk. This is her profitability behind it. Unfortunately, there was a pit in front of our palace, and due to which there was an accident, she fell down. Now, this is her today's loss because this is the pot that is broken. That is the loss, the milk that she lost. Her leg is broken. She needs immediate medical help. And now for 1 month, she won't be able to work. So that is the loss. She can't feed her family. So I think we should take steps immediately to rectify the road, put her to an hospital first of all, inform her family, and give her financial help. Is there any difference between the two employees? If that solves your query.
Yeah, I truly understand that.
Yeah. So that is what the corporates are looking at. See, if I have to pinpoint, Snake is not wrong. But whom will I choose as a corporate? I'll always want the Garudas with me. So that is what you all have to become. The problem solvers, the leaders. Okay.
That was a wonderful
Sure,
story,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Now,
Thank you.
yes, ma'am.
You can ask your question.
Ma'am, I'm Rupali here. I'm asking one
Yes.
question that whatever session is held today, so
Mhm.
we are going to be assessed for this. We need to give exams for this, right?
No,
So
no,
I
it's an
have
expert
my
session, ma'am.
it is expert session. Acha, okay.
Yeah, no exams are there for this is just an insightful session so that it can help you develop more during your entire MBA program.
Okay, then subject-wise sessions will be held.
Can we have that later on? This is truly dedicated for this session. You can get in touch with your mentor.
Is not picking up the calls. Okay.
Thank you,
Yeah, madam.
Sushil.
Like,
I'm glad you all like the story. Yes. Anything else?
yeah, as you rightly said, like today, like you gave an example of Mercedes-Benz who is doing innovations. So in each company, I think there is a cell called as patent and copyright. So
Yes.
like where a employee can, if he is working in a company, he has a thought process and he just wants to see whether that idea can be implemented or can be patented or registered, through which a company can achieve some monetary or some beneficiary, so he can just do a patent or a copyright for that.
Mhm.
Or Robert Bosch also like is one of the innovative company who has a
Yeah.
like a target of achieving maximum number of patents per year.
True. So if you're sitting on
And
a potential idea, if you feel that it could turn into innovation, when it turns into innovation, when it becomes transactable or it becomes deliverable. So having an idea, okay, which is not deliverable or which is not capable of getting converted into a product or a service is not an idea enough. Okay, so when you go for that patent, they are going to ask you all these questions of how really implementable, in what time, and all of that. So you can prepare enough for this, and definitely. But idea without execution is just an idea, let me tell you. But yes, for the patent stuff of it, definitely, it is encouraging. You must try that.
madam, and one more thing, you gave an example of a farmer saying that 50 acres of land that is
Yes.
mostly done in in the tea industry. Like I was working with
Yes.
Tata Motors, and there
Right.
was a project for which there are many hill stations which have tea gardens,
Yes.
and majorly due to some pesticide, it cannot be tracked because those are very
Yes.
dense type of things. So like there was a drone system which was being developed for that.
That's true. I mean, these are all realistic innovations which are real time implementable and the need of an hour, actually, if you'd ask.
Okay, ma'am. I think we are on the verge of ending the session. So I think we should be closing this session. So, as we come to close this insightful session, it's my privilege to extend a sincere vote of thanks to all those who made it possible. First and foremost, I would like to express my deep gratitude to our esteemed speaker, Mrs. Ketki Deshpande, for sharing her valuable knowledge and experience. Your thought provoking ideas on leveraging emerging technologies for sustainable innovations have given us all new perspectives and inspiration to take forward. So, thank you, ma'am. A big thank you to the organizers and support team who worked behind the scenes to ensure this event runs smoothly. And to our audience, both here and online, thank you for your time, attention, and active participation. Your engagement made this session even more meaningful. So let's continue to strive towards a future where technology and sustainability go hand in hand. So thank you so much, everyone. I declare this session over. Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. We are
Thank
happy
you.
to have you.
Thank you, Pritha ma'am. Thank you, Dr.
Yeah.
Shukla.
Thank you, ma'am.
It was my pleasure. Thank
Thank
you.
you, sir.
Thank you,
Thank you,
ma'am.
Professor.
Thanks, ma'am.
Yes.
Thanks, ma'am. It has been a
Thank
wonderful
you very
session.
much.
Very
Thank you,
insightful.
sir. Means a lot.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
ma'am, for the
Thanks.
wonderful
Thanks.
session.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you,
you,
ma'am.
sir. Bye bye.